Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we sift through, stacks of info, articles, research. Basically, we do the digging and pull out the key insights just for you. And today, we're diving into something that seems pretty straightforward, maybe, but actually, it's got some real hidden depths. We're talking about the power of the New York City mayor. So when you think about the mayor of NYC, what pops into your head? Is it like someone with just enormous authority, almost unchecked power? I mean, it is New York City we're talking about. It's huge. Global city, massive economy, millions of people. So it's kind of natural to imagine one person steering that ship, making these huge decisions, almost like a king or queen of the city, you know?
Yeah.
It really feels like a job where one person could genuinely make massive changes, right?
Yeah, that image is it's really common and totally understandable why you'd think that way, given the scale, like you said. But here's the interesting thing and kind of the mission for us today. We're going to unpack the real scope of that office. We're digging into the source material you gave us, especially with the next mayoral election kind of on the horizon. We'll look at the big responsibilities. Definitely, they're significant. But maybe more importantly, we're going to uncover the surprising, often quite strict limits they work within. It forces a kind of pragmatic approach. It's a lot more nuanced than just powerful mayor.
Okay, let's unpack that then, because on the surface, the mayor of New York City seems to have this immense weight of responsibility. From the outside looking in or just, reading the news, the powers look incredibly broad. Just think about the services. The mayor is ultimately responsible for this. It's just incredible range of things that affect everyone every single day. We're talking police, the NYPD, biggest force in the country, fire department, sanitation. Imagine the garbage in NYC.
Yeah.
The schools serving over 1 million kids, parks, keeping the subways and buses while trying to keep them running. The sheer scale of managing all that for, over 8 million people? It's kind of mind-boggling, really.
Yeah, absolutely is. The logistics alone are staggering.
And it's not just keeping things running day to day. They also have this huge power through appointments, right? They get to pick the police commissioner, the school's chancellor, the heads of health, transport, parks, sanitation. I mean, the list is enormous.
Mm-hmm. Key positions across the board.
So being able to put your people in those critical spots, that suggests massive leverage over how the city actually operates, its direction.
Yeah, shaping how policy actually gets, put into practice on the ground.
And then the big one, the budget. The mayor manages this colossal, multi-billion-dollar budget.
Billions with a B, often over $100 billion for the annual operating budget.
Right. Just hearing that number, it just screams power, doesn't it? It reinforces this idea that the mayor controls the purse strings for what's essentially one of the world's biggest economies, wrapped up in a city.
It certainly looks that way from the outside. Easy to think they can just, point the money where they want it to go. But, and this is where it gets really fascinating, despite all that apparent power, the huge responsibilities, the appointments, that massive budget, the source material we looked at is really clear on this point. The mayor's office actually operates under this pretty tight web of constraints, legal, political, and fiscal. These aren't just like vague ideas. They're real boundaries, sort of invisible chains maybe, that fundamentally shape what any mayor can actually do.
Invisible chains, I like that. So it's not just about their will, it's about the system itself.
Precisely. Let's break down some of those specific constraints because they're key. First up, you've got checks from higher up the food chain. The mayor isn't operating in a vacuum. There's constant oversight from the New York State legislature and the governor up in Albany.
Ah, Albany, right.
Yeah. So for a lot of major policy shifts or big changes, the mayor can't just decree it. They often need state approval or at least state cooperation. And as we know, that can get complicated, often contentious.
Okay, so give me an example. Like, what kind of thing needs Albany's okay?
Well, think about something high profile, like congestion pricing. That was a big NYC initiative pushed by the mayor and city officials, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it still needed the green light from Albany. And that meant years of back and forth, political battles, delays, compromises, just to get it moving.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of those state-level checks really biting.
Gotcha. So state level is one big check. What about closer to home?
Right. Locally, you've got the New York City Council. And they are a very important counterbalance. They're not just there to rubber stamp the mayor's plans.
They have teeth.
They definitely have teeth. The big one is the power to override a mayoral veto.
Okay, that's significant.
Hugely significant. So even if the mayor says no to a bill, or maybe a specific line item in the budget, if a council can muster enough votes, they can push it through anyway.
So the mayor can't just ignore the council if they feel strongly about something.
Exactly. It limits that ability to just act unilaterally. We see this play out all the time in, say, budget negotiations. The council might want to fund different things than the mayor. Or think about big land use decisions, rezonings. The council can really block or force major changes to a mayor's development agenda.
Okay, state legislature, city council, any other big players holding the reins?
Oh, yes. We absolutely have to talk about the financial gatekeeper, the New York City Comptroller.
The comptroller, right. They handle the city's money, audit things.
They do, but their power goes beyond just auditing. A really crucial role they play, especially with the city's big ambitions, is approving bonds.
Bonds. Okay, refresh my memory. How critical is that?
It's absolutely critical. Bonds are basically how the city borrows money for huge long-term projects. Think of building new subway tunnels, major hospital renovations, affordable housing construction, fixing bridges.
Big ticket items, infrastructure stuff.
Exactly. The kind of stuff that costs billions and takes years. Without the comptroller signing off on issuing those bonds, those massive plans, they literally can't get off the ground. The money isn't there.
Wow. So the comptroller isn't just an accountant. They're truly a financial gatekeeper with real power to stop things.
A very powerful, sometimes almost invisible hand guiding what's possible financially. There have been times like, say, after 9/11 when the city faced huge fiscal stress, the comptroller's office played a major role in dictating the terms of borrowing and spending, directly impacting rebuilding efforts.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, isn't it? Because it just shatters that initial image of like total mayoral control.
It really does.
It's not just about what the mayor wants to do or even what they have the formal power on paper to do. It's this constant navigation of, well, other powerful players.
A complex web, absolutely. It's less like a monarch, maybe more like a CEO of a massive company, but one with a really active board of directors, plus, state regulators, and a very watchful CFO, all of whom can say no or demand changes.
So a lot of negotiation, compromise, probably stuff happening behind the scenes we never even hear about.
Constantly, just to move the needle forward on anything significant.
Okay, so legal checks from the state, political checks from the council, financial checks from the comptroller. That's already a lot. But your source material mentions something else as a crucial focus. The city's financial situation itself, the underlying health of the budget. You're saying this might be the biggest constraint of all.
That's definitely the argument presented. Perhaps the most pervasive day-to-day constraint on what's even feasible for a mayor.
So what are the specific problems? What makes it so fragile?
Well, the sources point to a few consistent challenges. First, there are these projected budget gaps looming pretty much constantly.
Meaning they expect to spend more than they bring in down the line.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Looking ahead and seeing shortfalls baked into the forecast. Then you have rising deficits sometimes, meaning the city is actually spending more than it takes in now, adding to its debt.
Okay, that sounds stressful.
It is. And beyond that, the city's income, its revenues, are really vulnerable to swings in the economy.
How so?
Well, think about where NYC gets its money. A lot comes from taxes related to Wall Street, tourism, real estate deals.
Right, things that can fluctuate wildly.
Exactly. If the stock market takes a hit, or tourism drops off, or the real estate market cools down,
Yeah.
boom, city revenues can plummet pretty quickly. That forces immediate, often painful decisions.
And you mentioned federal funding cuts too.
Yeah, that's another layer of uncertainty. The city relies on federal money for all sorts of things. Public housing, infrastructure grants, social services. If Washington decides to tighten the belt, that can blow a huge hole in the city's budget, impacting programs people really depend on.
Okay, so it's like the ground is constantly shifting beneath their feet, financially speaking.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And connecting this back to the mayor's power,
Yeah.
it becomes really clear why this financial picture is so critical. It means, practically speaking, even if a mayor comes in with the grandest vision, the most amazing plans for new projects or expanded services.
The money just might not be there.
Exactly. The harsh reality of the city's finances might just slam the door shut on those ambitions. It really forces mayors to be, pragmatic, to focus on balancing the books, making tough choices, finding efficiencies, rather than just acting on grand authority.
So that vision has to be tempered by the spreadsheet, essentially.
Very much so.
Yeah.
These financial realities create really strict fiscal boundaries, as the source material calls them. These aren't suggestions, they're hard limits. It doesn't matter how much political capital a mayor has or what the law technically allows them to do. If the city can't afford it, or if borrowing more would be irresponsible, those plans are stalled.
Which probably means cutting popular programs sometimes or delaying needed repairs.
Or finding really creative, sometimes unpopular ways to save money or raise revenue. It forces the mayor to be the city's chief financial manager as much as anything else.
So let's bring this all together then. What does this actually mean for you listening? It means that the mayor of New York City, despite seeming incredibly powerful, is actually operating in a role that demands intense pragmatism. Why? Because of these really significant legal, political, and especially these unavoidable fiscal constraints. So this deep dive hopefully gives you a kind of shortcut, a way to get past the headlines and the simple idea the mayor decides and really understand the messy reality of running a city like New York. You basically get a better framework now for thinking about what mayors do and why they make the choices they make.
Exactly right. So next time you hear a mayor announce a big initiative or maybe hear a candidate making promises on the campaign trail, you can think about these hidden constraints. Ask yourself, okay, that sounds good, but what does Albany think? Can they get the city council on board? Critically, does the controller need to sign off? And maybe most importantly, can the city actually afford this right now?
Right. It shifts the focus from just what they want to what's actually possible within this complex system.
Precisely. And understanding that difference, that gap between ambition and reality, is key to really grasping the challenges. It helps you evaluate leadership more realistically, I think. It's often less about bold strokes and more about navigating these constraints effectively. Compromise and financial skill become just as important as, say, charisma.
Okay, so summing it all up, New York City's mayor. Big job, huge responsibilities, seems all-powerful from afar, but in reality, they operate within a really tight framework, influenced heavily by the state legislature and the governor, checked by the city council's veto power, watched carefully by the comptroller who holds the purse strings for big projects, and constantly wrestling with the city's own, often precarious financial health.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with. Pondering these really significant, often unseen limits on the mayor's power. How does understanding that change how you think about leadership or about accountability? What does it mean for governing a place as complex, as dynamic as New York City? What kind of leader does that reality actually demand? Something to chew on.
Definitely something to think about. We hope this deep dive gave you some fresh perspective on leadership and power in one of the world's most fascinating cities. Thanks for joining us, and keep exploring those nuances wherever you are.